Hello and welcome back to another preview. I'm Andy Hewing, joined by Delaney and we're going to talk about the Auburn LSU game coming up this Saturday at 2:30 p.m. So before we get into all of our discussion, we have a preview from LSU Tiger TV because they're going to give their take on the big game.
Hello, Eagle Eye TV. I'm Zach Nunez.
And I'm Luke Chevalier.
And we're Tiger TV out from LSU. Ahead of this week's matchup, Auburn quarterback Bo Nix had a lot to say about the atmosphere in Tiger Stadium. What do you think about that, Chef?
The comments, I think they're risky for Bo Nix. You know, he's a freshman. He doesn't have a lot of experience as a college quarterback, and he's never been to Death Valley, here in Baton Rouge. It's different. You can ask anyone who's ever been here. It's just different. It gets so loud, and the crowd is so into it that I think he doesn't know what's coming.
Absolutely. He did have the big game against Oregon with 100,000 people, but at least half of those people were actually cheering for Auburn. Tiger Stadium's going to be a completely different place. I mean, he's going to have 90,000 people rooting against, and that's not something you can completely prepare for.
It gets in your head.
Right, absolutely. Moving from Auburn's quarterback to LSU's quarterback, Joe Burrow continues to rise in the Heisman poll.
He does.
He leads the nation in almost every stat. He's either one or two, and it's absolutely crazy. What do you think about Burrow's performance this season, Joe?
Now, I still think it's weird to see LSU with this fast-paced offense and, the way they're high-flying. They just throw the ball, and they're really good at it. You know, it's in thanks to Burrow, it's in thanks to the scheme, and it's also in thanks to the receivers. Right. And I think with that structure, Burrow's going to, to continue to have this pace. I think his biggest threat for Heisman was Tua, who now has an ankle injury. He might be out who knows how many weeks.
Right.
Probably be back for LSU game.
He'll at least be back for the Iron Bowl for Auburn fans. Sorry to tell you that.
Yeah, that's not. But anyways, yeah, I know he's going to be have the best chance to dethrone Burrow. But for now, Burrow is in first place and sits top.
And it just came out that Terrace Marshall is actually going to be able to play Saturday. Auburn's defense is going to have a lot to deal with Terrace Marshall, Jets Jefferson, and
Jamar Chase.
Jamar Chase as well. I mean, it's going to be a tough matchup for Auburn's secondary, but it's also going to be a tough matchup for LSU's secondary as Auburn's wide receivers are really, really good. What do you think the LSU needs to do defensively to kind of make sure they take on the W?
So Bo Nix obviously is really good. Seth Williams is so good for Auburn. He's scary. And LSU's defense has a lot of talent, and I think they're too good. They're too talented not to be good. So I think, they know what they have to do, and it's just whether they can come out and execute versus these talented Auburn players.
I think what would be the difference in the game is if Auburn decides to attack Derek Stingley or not attack Derek Stingley, because we've seen two completely different sides of the coin where Florida went right after him. And then last week,
They didn't throw him at all.
Right. Florida went right after him, and then they've been teams that they just were not going to go after Derek Stingley. Derek Stingley is probably one of the best cornerbacks in the nation right now, and he's a freshman.
True freshman.
It's scary to see how good he is at such a young age. And then moving from the defense to the game as a whole, the opening line for the game started off at 12.5. What do you think about that line?
So for the line, 12.5, it's pretty much 2 touchdowns or, a touchdown and 2 field goals would cover. LSU is 7-0 against the spread this year. But I really feel like this is like one of those games, they always talk about it. They talk about it this whole week, that they might be looking ahead to Bama, which, every year everyone circles Bama on their schedule. But Auburn's no joke. They have one loss to Florida, who gave us a test. And I know we're at home, and I know we're all fired up, and everything's firing right now, and offense and defense is coming together. But just they can't overlook it. That's going to be the big issue.
Absolutely, that's for sure. I think a lot of people didn't expect them to cover against Florida as well, and the fact that they did cover is a late touchdown, but they still ended up covering. I think 12.5 is a little bit generous for LSU.
Yeah.
Like you said, looking ahead to Bama, and then Auburn is not a joke. I think Florida kind of threw Auburn off of their, back onto their heels a little bit, kind of took a little bit of that momentum. I think Auburn really could have won that game for sure. That's all from Tiger TV. Andy, Delaney, back to you guys.
Thank you, guys. So now, Delaney, let's talk just matchup head-to-head. What are you seeing in LSU and Auburn's offenses in a comparison right now?
Well, the matchup itself is very exciting, considering 16 of the last 19 times the two teams have faced off, the home team has won. So LSU has the edge. But the other 3 victories came from LSU in Jordan-Hare.
Yes, and LSU did last year come into Auburn, have a big comeback at the end of the fourth quarter and kick a game-winning field goal, which shocked the Tigers as they were the favorites to win that game at home. Auburn's had success at home, but in Baton Rouge, they haven't won since 1999, which is unheard of in many SEC matchups that a team has not won in over 20 years. And Auburn and LSU is one of them that the Tigers of Auburn have not gone to Baton Rouge and been successful. They've had many close calls. I think of the 2007 game when Demetrius Byrd stunned Auburn with 4 seconds left, catching the winning pass as LSU would go on to win the national championship in that year. There's been the 20-0 comeback that LSU had in 2017. Auburn's been there, but not successful yet. So can Auburn be victorious on Saturday?
It'll be an exciting game to watch, and we'll just have to see how it plays out.
So Joe Burrow, LSU's quarterback, has now accumulated over 2,000 passing yards, 29 touchdowns on the season. How is Auburn going to stop him on defense?
Well, I definitely think that Auburn's defense is going to be the toughest competition that LSU's offense has faced, with all of their SEC awards between Derek Brown, Marlon Davidson, that line, and they're just going to need to act very fast in order to shut down Burrow and the rest of LSU's offense, because they're currently tied third nationally with 41 plays totaling 20 yards or more.
And also LSU's wide receivers are very, very prolific this season. We looked in the Texas game, they had over 100 yards each in receiving. And Auburn's secondary's been kind of subject to struggling this year. Just a lot of pass yards given up, and I think you saw that in a lot of games like the Florida game and the Arkansas game. Even they gave a lot of passing yards despite dominating them. So what is the secondary going to have to do to shut down the receivers?
Well, Auburn's run defense is stronger than their pass defense, but LSU's passing offense is stronger than their running offense. So they're just going to have to make sure to stop them early.
So now let's go into a player to watch for. Delaney, who's your player to watch?
My player to watch is Jacoby Stevens, LSU tailback. He earned the SEC Defensive Player of the Week last week after his stellar performance against Mississippi State, and I think that he is definitely hungry on defense this week to shut down the Tigers.
For sure. And my player to watch for is Cam Martin. Cam Martin now has had to take up the role of HB1, and he's going to have to really show that he can fill that role that Jatarvius Whitlow left since his injury. And Martin has had a few good games. The Arkansas game was definitely a positive start for him, but this is a whole different animal, as we talked about in LSU. He's going to have success finding holes in the LSU defense in order to be successful. And I look also even at the running backs. They can all have a part to play, but Cam Martin, being the experienced guy, can push the Tigers to victory.
Definitely.
So now let's go into prediction. So how do you see the game unfolding? Who's going to win?
I think that LSU is going to walk out victorious, remain undefeated, but I do think there's probably going to be a 10-point spread. So Auburn has the possibility and the potential to keep it close.
Okay. Spread right now is 11.5, so that is definitely under the spread. So going for a little bit bolder choice down in Baton Rouge. And now my prediction is kind of along the same lines as yours. I think Auburn can cover the spread, and I think they'll lose by a touchdown. I think the defense has proven that they can hang in, but the offense still has so much to work on. And I think we'll see Joe Burrow have success, find holes, and I think a late touchdown by LSU will seal it. I think Auburn can hang in there, but it's just not going to be enough. I say Auburn by a touchdown. So that's all we're going to have for this preview. I'm Andy Hewling, joined by Delaney Barrow, and we'll see you next week.